Hi, welcome to Allergy Dragon's Lair. My name is Martha Morgan. I'm a specialty diet and allergy chef, and I happen to have celiac disease, a couple food allergies, but I always like to say that my biggest claim to fame is raising a child with over 30 food allergies and celiac disease. Okay, but before we jump into this episode and I introduce my really awesome guest, and yes, I know I always call everybody awesome, but I really genuinely think everybody is pretty awesome in this space. So let me read my quick disclaimer. The views expressed here on our show are our own personal opinions and our guest life experiences. We are not healthcare providers or doctors. However, some of my guests have been and are. Please seek advice from your healthcare professional for any diagnoses or changes to your healthcare plan. End of disclaimer. Most people that listen to Allergy Dragon's Lair, and if you for some reason have stumbled upon this brand new, I like to focus on really cool people in the space that are doing amazing things for our community, all of us living with autoimmune conditions, celiac disease, especially diets, food allergies, all that. I like to focus on these really cool people that are doing amazing things. And to say the least, I'm doing that again today. So today's guest is really special to me because it's another fellow allergy mom and warrior and CEO and of all kinds of really cool things. And I'm going to obviously let her introduce herself and explain all the cool things that she's doing, or at least I think that are really, really cool. So Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Martha. I really hope that I can live up to that incredible introduction. Thank you so much. I'm first and foremost the mother of three amazing daughters, Tessa, Reese, and Alyssa. And I am currently the CEO and founder of Latitude Food Allergy Care, which is the first national network of clinics that focus 100% on the diagnostic and treatment of food allergies, and currently in the San Francisco Bay Area and New York City.
I'm not sure exactly how these episodes are going to go on, but we actually have Tessa, which is one of your children who is kind of like, I guess I would say your driving force. We have a podcast coming out with them, so please make sure I'll have that linked below. So listen to that episode if you don't get a chance. And I would love to know more about what you do as a CEO of Latitude and what exactly made you decide to go that direction.
Thanks so much for asking. So, as I mentioned, I'm the mother of three daughters, and my oldest, Tessa, was born severely allergic. She had probably 15, like your child, lots and lots of food allergies that were of varying different severities. After four nearly fatal reactions, I sort of got fed up with the answers that I was getting from the doctors that I was seeing, that avoidance is your only option. And it was frustrating because no matter how careful I was, no matter how much food I cooked, I couldn't control the outside world. So I knew that I needed to go on a mission to protect my child. Like I said, after the fourth nearly fatal reaction, I decided that I was not going to leave any stone unturned. And I met with doctors from across the country and ended up finding a doctor in my own backyard here at Stanford that was relatively new in the area. And I connected with her and heard her speak and thought, oh my gosh, this is the woman that's going to help my child. And I approached her after a speech that she was giving and said, I'm so inspired by the work that you're doing. I would love to know how you can help kids like Tessa with multiple food allergies. Because at the time, they were doing just one at a time, and it was 3 years per allergen. And I thought she'd be 60 before she got through all of her foods. So I asked the doctor, what can you do to help kids like Tessa with multiple food allergies? And she looked at me and she said, I don't know, but I promise you we'll figure it out. And that was in 2009. Tessa was 6 at the time. She handed me her card. And from that moment on, we partnered. She went to work on the science side. I went to work on the people side. So she wrote the first multi-allergen desensitization clinical trial at Stanford. And I went to work on the people side, building community in and around what Dr. Nadeau was doing, and also helping her raise the funds for that first clinical trial. We were very fortunate to then start that clinical trial 2 years later. It took some time. But as we were walking in on that first day, where this is an oral immunotherapy clinical trial, so we knew Tessa was going to have to eat the foods that had once almost killed her. So as we were walking in on that first day, she looked up at me and said, "Mom, if I die, it's your fault." And I paused for a moment, but said, I understand that. And we still went in and we still proceeded with the clinical trial. But in that moment, I was struck by two things. One, no child should be this afraid of food, especially a cracker. No child should be this afraid of food. And in that moment, I vowed that if this works for Tessa, that we wouldn't stop until everyone had access to the same treatment. And then I also realized that I had no one to call because Tessa was the first. So I also vowed to never let anybody go through it alone. So, for the last 12 years, I have been an advocate and in support and helped patients go through their treatment as well. So we were very lucky. The treatment worked brilliantly for Tessa, and she went from having milk spill onto her hands and almost dying to now being able to eat ice cream. And while I understand that's not everybody's experience and everybody's outcome, just being able to be in a room and feel safe around it. I think you can understand this, just being able to feel safe around these foods that she was once afraid of is life-changing. As I said, I vowed to stay in it so that everybody could have access. I ended up staying at Stanford for 9 years, and we realized that we needed to make these treatments more accessible. We realized how life-altering they were, but it was a very small percentage of the country that was able to get on a plane and fly to Stanford for treatment. So we knew that we needed to make it more accessible, which is how the idea for Latitude came to fruition. So we basically took what we were doing at Stanford, these life-altering, life-changing treatments, and put it into private practice so that we can make it more accessible for families. So right now we have 4 clinics in the San Francisco Bay Area, 2 clinics in New York, and a third about to open in New York, and extremely motivated to make sure that we can open Latitude clinics across the country so that we can create total access to not only oral immunotherapy, but also to very, very life-changing diagnostics. To bring this full circle, the why of why I started, it really started, to protect my own child, and then knowing that there's so many kids and families suffering from food allergies and the anxiety that comes with it, and the anxiety, the depression, the trauma. There's so many other things that come, as you know, along with severe food allergies. That's my why.
And I think that living your life more freely, confidently, and just being able to thrive, that's all we want for our kids. And I think that there is no force like a food allergy mom or parent that is like ready to make changes. And I think that's one of the coolest things about our particular space is I've met a lot of really cool women because we started our journey very very close to the same time frame, since Tessa and Vesper, they're very, very close in age.
Yeah.
Our journey started at 9 months of age with strawberries. And by the time, through the whole years and ups and downs and EOE and just living life in general, ebbing and flowing, and no longer being allergic to peanuts. And they can't tell us why we're no longer allergic to peanuts, or Vesper's not allergic to peanuts anymore, but still so highly anaphylactic to so many other allergens. So, but have been told that, it's not an option for us. And then, maybe one day it will be an option for us as people learn more and more about OIT and there's more research done in long term, because there was really nothing. I'm sure you lived that aspect of the same thing I did, which was like, here you go, just don't feed them the allergens. Good luck.
Right. Said by someone who has never had to live with food allergies. I would love to know why you have been told it's not an option. And you can always tell me that if you don't want to answer or anything. Just I would love to know.
Well, when we first looked into it, it was eons ago. So it was like multiple things. Wasn't just
Yeah.
like one thing. And so I guess Vesper, as they have gotten older, they haven't like tried to look into it anymore. They were
Yeah.
really interested. We went to Faces in 2019, and then they were talking about the patches because another thing Vesper was like, I don't want to put this stuff in my mouth. And that was before the fish allergen has gotten so bad. Lots of different reasons. So I usually just break it down to EOE and fear.
Yeah. It's one of the things I'm most proud about and I love about Latitude, as I always encourage people. For me, I needed to continue to get opinions, and it's so important to find a provider that is committed and wants to work with you. And no matter where you are, no matter what stage you're at, one of the most amazing things for me that I get to see all the time is that, the day the kiddo or the person, I keep saying kids, but we have a lot of adults going through that come to us at Latitude because they just what you're saying is just trying to understand, what are you still allergic to? What can you be around? What do you still need to avoid? What could you treat if you wanted to treat? And it's amazing to watch someone walk through our doors with such anxiety. And Latitude was started by patients for patients. And it was, 20 years of observing patients and what they needed and being in the hallways at Stanford and watching the food allergy families desperate to connect with with each other because they weren't getting answers from their doctors, who are incredible doctors. There's just a lot of misinformation out there, but families were turning to each other for support. And we've taken so much of that experience and put it into Latitude. And we really, really understand. I don't want this to sound like a plug for Latitude, but more a plug for finding the place that is truly committed to helping you take a step forward. Somebody comes in, like Vesper would come in, it would be, let's just talk about coming through that door and taking a step. What would be helpful to you? Would it be looking at your overall allergy picture? Where was it when you were 5? And let's see where it is at 21. And can we chip away at this in some way? So it's been really amazing to see how our families have responded to even just the space that we've created at Latitude. Doctors' offices are very scary and clinical and cold, and looking at the patient experience and providing an experience that just feels like no other medical experience I've ever had. So that really means so much to me because we want the kids. We have an open door policy. Families can go in and out of their rooms. They can talk to each other. We encourage people to talk to each other so that we can support. It's kind of like an organic support group.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to encourage families to continue to seek opinions or seek out answers, because oftentimes, even if you take one step, even if you can bring back a singular food, it feels life-changing for families.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming. I was just on the phone with a patient this morning that has 20 foods in question. And we went systematically through. We got updated testing and said, okay, these are the foods you're still allergic to. These are the foods we could do food challenges to. And, the family looked at that list and said, we're going to start with one. We're going to start with egg. And if we can do a baked egg challenge and we can have baked egg, because his last test was when he was 5, and this most recent is when he was 13, and the testing is showing us that it's changed over time,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially, and he's been avoiding it like the plague, or even worse. If we can potentially bring back egg, that would be life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
At baked egg, even baked egg would be something. So sorry to
Oh
go
yeah.
on for so long about that, but
No,
that's
no, no. I totally agree because, and that's what people don't understand. Like Vesper, when we first started, peanuts, tree nuts, and strawberries were the 3 allergens that we knew of. And then
Mhm.
after every so often, we're having more testing because we're having more allergic reactions. And, we lost peanut along the way. They don't have a clue how Vesper grew out of peanut, but
Amazing.
peanut is not needed. Yeah, exactly. It's a boom. So all of a sudden doesn't have to worry about cross contamination. I mean, we still have 30 plus allergens, but not being allergic to peanuts, huge. So yeah, if you can get anything off of your list, no matter how big or small it is, it's life changing. I
Yeah,
have a friend here who is severely allergic in her 30s to peanuts, and that's like her major allergen. If she could get that away, her life would be almost perfect. I mean, as far as like food allergies, nothing's perfect, but
right.
to take one thing off of somebody's work to not worry about, it's amazing.
Well, and I think that that is a piece of misinformation out there, Martha. Adults can also be treated. It's very interesting when we see adults coming in for the first time and they've held off because they had kind of heard of oral immunotherapy, but then they heard it was only good for kids. And it's important for people to know the younger, we love the babies because we love to treat those babies before they even know they have a food allergy because of all the other things that come along with having a food allergy, like we talked about before, the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, all of the really tough mental health challenges that come with food allergies. If we can treat those babies, that's amazing. But we can treat anyone at any age, as long as they're committed and they're interested, right?
Right. And see, that's the other thing I think I've heard more so about people that would like to do it that are in their 30s that I know, which is obviously a great reason to have this podcast, let people know, but also that it is a treatment and you have to follow a regimen. And, for some people that they're not willing to put that work in either. I think it has to do with the fact that the commitment to making sure that you're doing your regimen and dosing and things like that. However, you have to do that for your OIT. I would even be interested myself at some point someday if I have the time. And then also money is a concern for some people too. So
Of course. And I think there's so much misinformation out there and differing. If you lined up 10 doctors that do OIT, they would all tell you something different. One thing that we really try to do is we try to customize it for someone's lifestyle. And yes, of course, with any treatment, it's a commitment. If you talk to any of our patients, I can give you a statistic, 9 out of 10 of them said that they would do it again. And you find a way to work it into your lifestyle. You were saying, to Tessa that she was really brave to do it. For me, ultimately, we knew it was going to happen again. And I was afraid all the time of her leaving. So that's what ultimately got us to do it, was the fear of her leaving the house every day, that let's at least try something to see if it can alleviate some of that. But it's so amazing to watch these kids and and adults come in so fearful, and even in that first appointment where they've walked in being told there's nothing you can do about it, and over that appointment having a whole team of people, realizing you have a whole team of people now trying to help you figure it out and helping you take a step forward, it's really transformational. And I always say to people when they start, it's, I can't wait to go to an ice cream shop with them, or, go do something, not if they're, so that they don't, when they're not worrying about cross contamination anymore. That's my favorite thing in the world, is to get to see how life-changing it's been and how they're putting it in, how it's changing their lives.
oh, I bet that in itself is amazing to see the people that you're able to help, and you see this growth that you've already helped see with your own child is a way to give back, I think, and because you know exactly how that parent feels having to watch that, and an adult too, an adult, how an adult, that is having to go through that themselves as well, because there is a lot of late onset diagnoses of food allergies or anything like that. My sister was one of those as well. I think that empowering people to get certain parts of their life back is just really awesome. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
No, thank you. Well, I feel like I'm the lucky one that gets to, I feel blessed every day that we get to help people in this way. I will say one of the things that I'm also very excited about is Xolair. And you mentioned for people that oral immunotherapy does not work for. I love that Xolair is now an option. Tessa did take Xolair in her clinical trial, but until, for the last 10 years, it has not been available. Now it's just been FDA approved for food allergy. And for those that OIT might be too much of a commitment or that it has not worked for, I love that there's this other option for people that hopefully now can get covered by insurance. We've been very lucky in getting it. We've been very successful, I should say, not lucky, very successful in getting it covered for our patients. That oral immunotherapy is just not right for them. So I love that there's options and that Xolair is now available to food allergy patients to add that layer of protection.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad to hear that it's being approved by insurances too. Anytime you can get that is good. That's good
For
news.
sure. For sure. I'm a big fan of Xolair. Our dog's name is Zola, Xola.
Kim, I think that we have touched on like some really amazing things, and I would love to learn a little bit more about what you're doing with Latitude as far as support. You touched on that a little bit, other than just doing the OIT, and kind of what the future you think kind of holds for, your company as a whole, and even as your life, in 5 to 10 years. What do you see in the future for us in the allergy world?
Wow, that's a great question. I, as you know, in so many things in healthcare and in research, it's a little bit unpredictable. And what we do know is that there is a massive need for more options. We know that we need better diagnostics. We have oral immunotherapy today, which is absolutely life changing for many families, thousands and thousands of families, but we need more options. And oral immunotherapy is not perfect. We're trying to perfect it. We're capturing a lot of data at Latitude, real world data, and we hope to give that back to research. That's very important to us at Latitude. We are very closely tied to several world-renowned healthcare systems that are doing allergy research, that Latitude is giving back their data to these organizations so that we can be part of the fight against food allergies in a broader way. Sometimes we are looked at that we just focus on oral immunotherapy. One of the most important things that we do at Latitude is the diagnostic process and taking the time to truly and accurately diagnose what a person is truly allergic to. We don't want to treat anybody for foods that they're not allergic to. And one of our favorite things in the world to do is give foods back to people without having to treat them for it. And especially with really young kids, that babies that have been told to avoid foods that they're not actually allergic to, it's really best to get it into their diet as quickly as possible. And we really focus a lot on the overall well-being of our patients. And I like to say, it sounds a little cliche, but I like to say that we are also treating the mind as well as the body and trying to desensitize the mind to the fear of food. So when people are in our clinics, they're seeing the food, they're touching the food, they're ingesting the food, so that by the time they walk out, they're feeling confident, empowered, and safe around the food, which is really important. Once I realized how life-changing this treatment was for Tessa and saw so many patients over so many years have the same life-changing experience, we knew we needed to make not just food allergy treatment, but food allergy diagnosis and more accessible. And making it more accessible means many different things. It means making it available, but also making it affordable, which is something that we're working on all fronts. I am very mindful of the fact that not everyone is able to fly to California or to New York. And it's very important to us to create that access across the country. So we are working with allergists across the country that are reaching out to us that want to collaborate with us in order to bring these services to their patients. So if there are any allergists listening here today, please know that at Latitude, we want to collaborate. We want to find ways to make this more accessible. to as many people around the country as possible.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show, Kim. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to kind of wrap it up here. Do you have anything at all before we wrap up that you would like to add, or any ending thought that you want to leave us with?
I think there's two things that I love to say is, and I love to encourage, is for families to take control of their own healthcare. And if they don't like the answers that they're getting, to keep pushing and to keep seeking different opinions. And I also love to encourage families to seek out their options. There are options. 20 years ago, there were not options, but today there are many options. And even if that's finding an option that allows you to take one step or explore one food, there are so many people that have been told that you're allergic to peanuts and tree nuts, you should avoid all, when they might only be allergic to one or two foods. That's incredibly important to know. I would encourage anyone, and or if there's anyone listening here, if they have friends, encourage their friends to take their healthcare into their own hands and continue to push, and do everything they can to just at least take one step and find that person, that provider that is going to stick with you until you get the answers that you deserve and the care that you deserve.
Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I did want to end with expressing my gratitude to you for what you are doing here, because there's so much misinformation out there and families feel so unsupported and they don't know where to turn. And we are so grateful to have this opportunity to share information with your community and your listeners. And we hope, I would be honored to continue to collaborate with you to help the food allergy community in any way. But you have devoted your life to this, and please know how grateful I am and how grateful I'm sure all of your viewers or listeners are for what you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And again, thanks for being on too. And you keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And listeners, please make sure you check out him and everything that they're doing over there at the Latitude Food Allergy Care. And everything will be linked down below. Make sure you share this episode, subscribe, and review. And we will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.